You've been at this for years. What's your reaction to the decision by the FTC yesterday?
Well, sooner or later, we were expecting positive results because the deal was in reality really rational. I have been surprised by the length of this process. When we decided to do this deal, we were expecting, of course, a careful, let's say, scrutiny, a deep scrutiny of what we were doing, but we were confident that at the end, the deal would be in the interest of the patients, of the customers. So we have been a little surprised by the difficulties that we have found and by the length of the process. And so we had to restructure the deal according to the indication that I would say we were thinking the FTC was giving us. They were not giving a direct indication, but we were thinking that they were giving us. And at the end, we had a deal, which I am quite pleased about. Initially, at the beginning, this was the deal that I had proposed to Rite Aid to sell us a certain number of stores. And so it's fine. Of course, it will take, the return of this deal is in the range that we want. We will never do a bad deal for the shareholder, at least consciously. Maybe we can be wrong.
Given what you just said there, this is the deal you wanted. Do you regret going about it the way you went about it the first time? That is, for the whole merger. You could have just gone after the stores to begin with.
No, because Rite Aid wanted to sell the company, rightly so. So they were defending the interest of their shareholders. We were trying to do what was best for us. So they were not open to do a different deal, and we followed them, and we restructured the deal according to the let's say the difficulties that we have found along our journey, and at the end we have come to a deal which is similar to what we were aiming at initially. Of course, you see, this deal, it's easier for us. At the end, we buy assets and we have to organize and transform these assets without having to integrate a full company. On the other hand, this will take a little more time because they will not, the stores will not be in our network day one. We have to transfer these stores, and it will take some time, one by one. We cannot do it overnight. So it's a little slower, but at the end, I believe it's more interesting for our company. I believe the value we will deliver it's higher with this kind of deal.
Can you give me some insight into how you came up with this restructure, this idea to restructure the deal in the way in which you did? You said it was what you'd hoped for to begin with, but what indications did you get from the FTC, or how did you figure out what might be more passable to them than the first proposal?
Well, it was clear that the deal as we had structured it was not particularly accepted or liked by the FTC. So we had to change completely the structure of the deal, and there are not 100 ways of changing the structure. Either you do a share deal or you do an asset deal. And so we decided to do an asset deal. We took into account the stores that the FTC had already signaled they didn't like us to buy for competition reasons, and we reduced the deal to a size which was making sense for us, but also for Rite Aid, because if they had to survive the company, they needed a rational footprint of the stores, more or less, a little more, a little less. So, because they have to restructure now to readapt their central cost, and at least for a while they needed a certain number of stores. So we tried to do something rational.
It's my understanding that there was a commissioner who didn't vote in favor of this. It got through with a commissioner's vote. Should we make much of that? Do you make much of that, the fact that it wasn't approved unanimously?
Well, I don't know what has been the dynamic behind the scene. I know that we didn't have an early termination, and the deal has gone through because I understand that people have not voted, I understand. Maybe I'm wrong, but this is my understanding. So yes, it's possible that there was not unanimity. Well, everybody has an opinion, and of course there are people who did not see this deal in the interest of the patients, of the customers, as we do. We have also to say that Rite Aid needed to do something, and sometimes the inaction or not doing nothing or blocking everything could be much worse than taking an action which is not perfect.
I imagine that you'll talk to other CEOs who will ask you what your takeaway is about the regulatory atmosphere or landscape here in Washington in light of this. What's your sense of the environment for deal making right now in Washington, D.C. after what you've been through, after this 2+ year process?
Well, for sure, I cannot say that the environment is particularly business friendly. I am relatively new to the U.S. I have been chief executive of WBA just for 3 years now, more or less 3 years. And I have to say that I had different expectation. I had the expectation of the country very business friendly. Now this is a fantastic country. It's a country where it's easy to work, where there are great people, where it's easy also to be profitable. I always say that with the same efforts that you can make €1 in Europe, in continental Europe, £1 in UK, at least I was saying this before Brexit, yes. And $10 in the US, and this is true. It's a fantastic country to work. But it's better not to have too much to do with the administration because when you start with it, you have really to spend a lot of money and a lot of time. At the end, probably you go through. At the end, but it's a painful process.
Let me ask you lastly here, the motivations for the deal, as I understand it, was you wanted to increase the geographic footprint and to move toward this more value-based care model that we're seeing here in this country, certainly. Are you satisfied that the company now in this form is going to be able to do that? In other words, are you open to or interested in more deal-making going forward?
No, to be honest, I am happy that we have done the deal. I believe that this deal is a very good deal for the company. Economically, I said we have the return, we are in the range of return that we accept. We are very disciplined. But this deal is also good strategically because we were weak in the Northeast, and now we have a very full coverage of those states. We could improve our position in the South, and we now have a very strong position in the South. It's not perfect because we would have liked to have some stores in the West Coast where we are not yet as present as we are in the rest of the country. We are present, but not as present, but we can build it up by our own over time. Well, I mean, we don't have to, we don't need another 5,000 stores. We need hundreds of stores. And so I believe that we are happy on what we have achieved, even though we would have liked to achieve this at least 1 year ago. We were ready to wait for 1 year, but 2 years, it's a little too long.
Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you very
Appreciate it.
much. Thank you.